You were the smart kid. So why do you feel so lost now? Back then, everything made sense. You knew where you stood. People told you who you were. Smart, gifted, ahead. And you believed them. You were the kid who got it fast, who didn't need to try, who always seemed a step ahead of everyone else. Maybe you didn't have many friends, maybe you didn't fit in, but that was okay. Being smart was enough. It was your safety, your identity, your value, and it worked for a while. But now you're older and something's not clicking. Life feels heavier, slower, disconnected. You're surrounded by people, yet somehow still alone. You're capable, but you keep stalling. You understand things, but nothing feels worth doing. You feel too much and not enough, all at once. And the worst part is, you don't know why. You tell yourself you should be fine, that you have no reason to feel like this, that if you were really as smart as they said, you'd have figured this out by now, but you haven't. And deep down, maybe you're scared that you've peaked early, that the best version of you was some middle school kid getting straight A's and reading ahead of the class, that everything after that has been a slow, quiet decline. You laugh it off, but it gnaws at you. It's not just confusion, it's grief. Not over what happened, but over what never did. And so here you are, sitting with questions you can't quite name, in a life that doesn't feel broken, just off. And this quiet ache follows you around, waiting for you to finally stop running from it. Maybe this is that moment. It starts early. You're a kid, maybe 5, maybe 10. You do something clever, solve a puzzle fast, use a big word, correct an adult, and they light up. Wow, you're so smart. It feels good. Better than good. It becomes your thing. And when something feels that good, that safe, you hold on to it. That label wraps around you like armor. Every time someone praises you for being ahead, you double down. You learn to chase that look in their eyes, the one that says, "You're different, you're better." But here's the problem. The praise wasn't for effort. It wasn't for trying. It was for ease, for being quick, for getting it without needing help. So slowly, without realizing it, you build this unspoken rule inside yourself. If I struggle, I must not be smart anymore. And that rule grows roots. You avoid things that might expose you. You pick subjects you know you'll ace. You stop asking questions. You stop playing unless you know you'll win. You never try anything where you might look dumb. You don't want to feel that slip the moment you don't have the answer and the illusion cracks. Because it's not just about being wrong, it's about what that might mean. Maybe you're not smart. Maybe you never were. And so the identity hardens. I'm the smart one. But only under a very strict condition. You can never mess up. Now imagine growing up like that. Carrying a mask that only works when things are easy. What happens when life stops being easy? When effort is required? When the world asks you to risk embarrassment, confusion, or failure? You freeze, you flinch, you shrink, and you call it perfectionism. But it's not about being perfect. It's about protecting the only version of yourself you think is lovable. That's when the trap tightens. What used to be a compliment, "You're smart," starts to feel like a rule you have to obey. You're not just someone who is smart. Now you're someone who must always be smart. And that means no room for mistakes, no space to learn in public, no tolerance for being average at something new. So your world starts to narrow. You stop raising your hand unless you're certain. You stop trying new things unless you're sure you'll be great. You only go where you can win. You only do what comes naturally. You become excellent at a very small set of things, and everything else just feels dangerous, risky, embarrassing. And while you're building this small, safe world, other people are out there fumbling through it all, getting messy, getting better. They join teams, try hobbies, fail in front of others, laugh about it, move on. But you're still in your head, trying to make sure no one ever sees the cracks. The more you protect the image, the more you miss out on the actual experience. And that's the twist. What once made you feel special now makes you feel separate. Not above, just apart. You sit out, you hesitate, and little by little you drift. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because protecting that smart identity means never stepping into anything that might prove otherwise. Eventually, your mind starts doing something strange. It turns everything into a calculation. You walk into a room and scan for judgment. You think 2 steps ahead in every conversation. You don't speak unless the words are pre-approved in your head. You're not connecting, you're performing. It's not friendship anymore, it's social strategy. And you're good at it. You know how to read people, mirror them, say the right thing, but it drains you. Because it's not real, it's not rooted in being present. It's rooted in control. This is what happens when emotional presence gets replaced by cognitive overdrive. You don't feel your way through moments, you analyze them. You don't relate, you observe. You develop something called cognitive empathy. You can understand what people are feeling, you just can't join them in it. So even when you're surrounded by others, you feel separate. You can play the part of being social, but it never fills you. In fact, the more you do it, the more alone you feel. And because you've always relied on your mind to get through things, you start applying logic to emotional pain. You treat sadness like a math problem. You try to outthink loneliness. You write mental essays about why you shouldn't feel the way you do. But the pain doesn't care. Because emotional wounds don't respond to intellect. They don't need arguments, they need presence, they need connection. But presence requires vulnerability. And vulnerability feels like failure. So you keep looping in your head, trying to feel safe without ever being seen. And over time you convince yourself of something cruel. That maybe you're just different. That maybe no one can understand you. That your loneliness is proof of your depth, not your fear. And that idea, so comforting, so isolating, becomes your final defense. You're not alone because you're scared. You're alone because you're special. And that lie is what keeps the door closed. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not above connection. You're starving for it. You crave closeness, softness, places where you don't have to keep proving yourself. You want to talk without planning the sentence in your head 3 times. You want to laugh without wondering if it sounded forced. You want someone to really see you and not the version you built to survive. You've spent years trying to outsmart emotions, trying to be logical about worth, trying to solve loneliness with self-analysis. But none of it touched the part that hurts, because the part that hurts doesn't want a solution. It wants permission. To be confused, to be human, to need others, to not have the answer. And that's not weakness, that's healing. So here's the shift. Stop trying to be impressive. Let people see you as you are. Awkward, uncertain, in progress. Let them meet the version of you that doesn't always know what to say, that sometimes feels behind, that isn't always put together. Because that's the version that knows how to connect. The truth is, you've always been good at understanding. You just haven't let yourself be understood. And the only way back, the only real way out, is not through more knowledge. It's through softness, through letting go, through reaching out even when you're not sure how. It's not about solving anything, it's about finally being willing to be seen without the mask. That's where the loneliness breaks. That's where the real life starts. Letting go of the smart kid identity feels like betrayal at first. Like you're giving up the one thing that made you valuable. But that's the illusion. Intelligence was never the problem. The problem was thinking it was all you had. That your worth lived in being clever, fast, unshakable. That struggle meant failure. That asking for help meant weakness. That being human meant being less. The shift isn't about rejecting your mind, it's about stepping out from behind it. You stop asking, will this make me look smart? And start asking, will this help me grow? That's the difference. One protects the mask, the other builds the person. So you try things. Badly. You write something cringy, you show up to the class where you're the worst one there. You ask the question even if it's basic. You stop trying to win and start trying to live. And it will feel clumsy, awkward, even humiliating at first. Because it's new. Because it's real. Because your pride will scream to run. But you don't run this time. You stay. You let yourself feel the discomfort and keep going anyway. Not to impress anyone. Not to prove you're still special. Just to be someone who participates. Who tries. Who keeps showing up even when they feel lost. And something strange happens. The pressure starts to fade. Not all at once, but little by little. Because now your worth isn't built on being exceptional. It's built on being present, being human. And that's something no failure can take from you. You begin to feel it in moments, small and quiet. Not pride, not relief. Something else. Something softer. You're not hiding as much. You're not performing every second. You speak without rehearsing. You laugh and don't overthink the sound. You admit you're struggling and don't rush to clean it up. And in return, people don't turn away. They lean in because you're no longer holding yourself above them. You're beside them. Finally, the identity that once felt like a shield starts to fall away. You don't need to be the best in the room. You just need to be in the room, honest, awake, a little shaky maybe, but real. And that's what people connect to. Not your talent, not your composure, not your intelligence, but your presence. You, as you are. Not curated, not edited, not on. The world becomes less like a stage and more like a space. You're no longer trying to earn your place in it. You're just letting yourself exist in it. And it feels strange, unfamiliar, but also right, like you've come home to something you didn't know you were missing. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're no longer alone in it. You've stepped down from the pedestal, and it turns out the ground isn't so bad. It's where the people are, where the life is, where you get to belong, not because you're brilliant, but because you're brave enough to be seen. You don't need to tie a bow around it. You don't need a big breakthrough. Just notice what hit you. The part that made you pause. The sentence that felt a little too familiar. That's the thread. You don't have to pull it yet. Just see it. If something stirred in you, if some part of this felt like a mirror, that's enough. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not the only one. You're just a person who learned to survive by being sharp, and now you're learning how to live by being honest. No fixes, no formulas, just the slow, quiet work of returning to yourself, and maybe for the first time, not doing it alone.